Hi, I'd like to thank everyone for joining Catapult Systems and New Horizons for today's webinar, Power BI for Office 365, presented by Noam Topaz, Catapult Systems Principal Consultant for Power BI and Office 365. We are really lucky to have Noam presenting because he is currently working with Microsoft on some of the new Power BI features and is one of the top Power BI experts available anywhere. Don't forget to continue the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag PowerBI. You can submit questions at any time using the GoToWebinar panel. We will answer your questions at the end of the presentation as time permits. Today's presentation is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording and the presentation slides in an email tomorrow. Feel free to share these links with your colleagues. A little bit about Catapult Systems. We are a globally focused Microsoft IT consulting firm that provides application development, enterprise solutions, infrastructure services, and a full range of cloud solutions. We have offices in Austin, Dallas, Denver, Fort Lauderdale, Houston, Phoenix, San Antonio, Seattle, Tampa, and Washington, D.C., along with a federal practice. Catapult implements innovative technology solutions that enable our clients to achieve their business objectives while driving the maximum value for their Microsoft technology. I'm now going to go ahead and turn it over to Tiffany so she can tell us a little bit about our co-host New Horizons.
Hi, David, did you have the slide up about New Horizons? I don't see the slides. I just want to make sure you realize that.
Yeah, we can pull that up. Noam, would you mind pulling that slide up?
So am I not sharing my desktop?
We're seeing it, but it's not.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Perfect. So thank you so much for having me today on the call. My name is Tiffany Wallace, and I'm the Director of Business Development for New Horizons in the South Central region, New Horizons 5 Point Enterprises. But I'm here today to represent all of New Horizons. New Horizons is a Microsoft Gold partner. We're a learning solutions partner, obviously. We've been in business for over 32 years, and we have 300 locations globally in 70 countries. In the United States, we're most prominent in every major city, especially for all of the folks attending today. I know that we touch all the cities that you're located in with a brick and mortar location. We specialize in IT pro training, developer, business, and end user skills development. We have more classes and more locations than any other training company in the United States. And we have over 3,500 training classes that are what we call guaranteed to run. So if you enroll yourself or any of your staff, there's no question that that class will be there and delivered. Our learning solutions are public courses, but we also do have private event options. And that goes along with what this presentation will entail today with business intelligence. Our classes can train the IT department, the IT end users as well. So once you do roll out a solution and you now need to touch the general population of your end users, our training is there to help you, and we do that in private event setting for you, either virtually or in person. So we're very excited to be a part of this today, and I will let Noam kick it off from here. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Tiffany and David. Thanks for the introductions. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can definitely hear you.
Cool. And can you see my slide?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So good morning, everybody on the East Coast. Sorry, good morning, everybody on the West Coast. Good afternoon for everyone on the West Coast. And I guess good noon for the people in the Central. Couple of words about myself before I begin. I've been in the business of enterprise software for about 25 years. I come from the world of unstructured data, so Lotus Notes and Microsoft SharePoint. And I also jump-started a couple of key technologies such as the digital dashboard and then the information bridge framework. Both were kind of a prelude to some products inside of Microsoft. And as David mentioned earlier, I'm currently the subject matter expert on the BI migration for Microsoft. We're moving everything from traditional BI to the new BI, and it's a little bit of a painstaking process, and that's why I'm working closely with the product teams to address some of the requirements. In today's presentation, we're going to look at three big pieces. First of all, we're going to look at some of the key drivers for Power BI, what's happening in the world of data, and also what are some of the challenges that customers were facing when they have to build BI solutions. Then we're going to look at the key components of Power BI, what lives on the client and what lives on the server or in the cloud, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Finally, and the majority of the presentation is really a demo. We're going to start from a clean workbook and work our way all the way through creating some of the visualizations and then sharing them and providing a way for other people to derive insights using the Power BI capabilities, specifically of Office 365. So with that, let's dive into the first part, which is what's happening in the world of data. So the way Microsoft looks at this is there are two big pieces. There's where does the data live and how is it consumed. And in both areas, there are some big mega changes that are happening. The first one is that the data sizes are actually increasing almost twofold every year. And what's really interesting about it is that 85% of the data is actually new forms of data. And this includes, for example, RFID information that is disseminated to shippers. Cell phone companies are selling cell-based locations of their subscribers to marketers. You can imagine that new companies, when they want to check on the success of a product launch or a marketing campaign, they don't necessarily go to their order systems anymore. They go to Twitter and Facebook to find out what are some of the product sentiments. So these are some of the new forms of data. On the other side, there's all the consumerization of IT. And this falls into a number of categories. First of all, the proliferation of devices. There's the tablets, phones, all different ways by which customers are consuming information, and also where they're consuming it. So a lot of people are actually going to social media or search engines to find information. So then it's not anymore the traditional IT, they would not necessarily go to information inside the organization. They constantly look for information outside the organization. So these are some of the trends in the world of data. But if we look at some of the challenges, Microsoft conducted a survey about 2, maybe even 3 years ago around what are some of the issues that customers have with BI. It's a little bit broad than that, but they managed to collect about 1,500 data points around. Some of them relate to cost. It was too expensive to build and deploy. But if we look at the others, they basically fall into 3 categories. The first one is it's very difficult to get to the data. You need to know someone who can get you the data. You don't necessarily know what's the username and password. And it's also very time-consuming to organize it in the way that you actually would need it. Once you get the data, there's another set of challenges around how do you visualize it. Some people have called it we're no chart wizards. They're not sure how best to represent the information. It requires a level of expertise that business users don't necessarily have. And lastly, once you share the information, this is my experience, more often than not, maybe nine times out of 10, the people get really excited, but they say, actually, we want to see the data in a different way, a different slice of the data, a different format. So those are the key challenges that Power BI is trying to address, both the increase of data, the mega trends in proliferation of devices, and then also the key components, the key blockers that are listed here. So when we look at Power BI, it's actually, you want to think about it as a collection of add-ons to Excel, and also this new thing called the Power BI sites for Office 365. And we'll talk about this later. So each one of them, each one of these banners addresses these challenges that we talked about earlier. The first set of tools or add-ons are ways for business users to access in a self-service fashion data, whether it's inside the organization or externally. And the other thing is the ability for them to use kind of a layman ETL tool, so their ability to perform some basic transformations and then load it into a data model. And we'll see this in the demo. So this is the first part, making it easy for you to get to the data and transform it. The second part is the ability for you to organize it, the data, and to visualize it. And we'll see this also, how Microsoft has made these tools very simple and easy to use. Now I should mention, by the way, that some of these tools already existed in some fashion in earlier versions of Excel. What's really exciting here is that all these tools are now tightly interlinked, so they're not kind of individual components anymore. Lastly, the new and exciting ways to collaborate around data and to conduct analysis through a web interface is provided through the Power BI sites. Specifically, the three components that come with Power BI is the ability for you to open a file in HTML5, to share it and use the Power Q&A, which is kind of a natural language query interface to the data, and then also the ability for you to interact with the data through a mobile device, be it an iPad or a Surface, etc. So this is how I want you guys to think about Power BI, this collection of tools that are all integrated. And we're going to look at most of these tools here in today's presentation. In fact, I think we're looking at all of them. Okay, so with that, I'm going to start my demo. And the demo really has three parts to it. The first one is we're going to show some of the basic capabilities of Power BI. We're going to go and look for data. We're going to extract it, manage it slightly, or transform the data slightly to meet our needs. And then we're going to load it into a data model. Once we have it in a data model, we're going to visualize it using Power Map and Power View very quickly, and it's kind of a high-level view of creating visualization. The next part of the demo is a little bit more advanced, and it focuses on meshing data, but also we're going to see how we interact with some of these new types of data that I talked about. I'll keep it as a surprise to the end. And lastly, the last part of the demo is all about sharing the insights and making it available for others to interact with the data in new and exciting ways. So with that, I'm going to switch to Excel. And I start the demo from I start the demo from an empty workbook. I'm actually going to open a new one. You can see. Okay, that's part of the demo. I'm over-prepared for this, I guess. Let's start again. We'll open a blank workbook. There we go. So when we open the blank workbook, you'll see at the top I've added a couple of add-ons to the ribbon here. One of them is the Power Query. If you don't have this in your Excel, just go and download it. It's a free download to both Excel 2010 and 2015. When you access the Power Query from the ribbon, you'll notice a couple of things. The first one is the sign out. I'm already signed in to my organization. My organization has Power BI in the organization. If you don't have Power BI in your organization, you still can use the Power Query for a wide variety of capabilities, and we'll see some of this later on. But Power BI, the signing in allows you to interact with the data catalog for two needs. One is you can save your own queries, or you can actually find queries that were created by others. For those people who don't have the data catalog, they can still interact with the data in a wide variety of ways. They can pull data from a file, whether it's an Excel or an XML. They can interact directly with the database if they know the database name, username, and password. There's SQL, Oracle, IBM, and so forth. Or they can interact with other sources such as a SharePoint list, an OData feed, some of the big data sources such as Hadoop and HD Insights. And then lastly, we recently introduced the SAP Business Object Connector, which allows people to interact with BO Business Object Universe. In this demo, like most people, I don't necessarily know where my data lives, so I'm going to use the search capability. And this is, when I search this, I'm able to look in two ways, either data that's available out there in the web, or I can, it's the data that has been published inside my organization. Now, in this demo, I'm representing a business analyst who is going to produce some analytics around sales data. I work for a company called Contoso, and it's a distributor of battery sales. Batteries. So I'm going to look for batteries. And when I search for this online, it's actually going to go and look for it in these two catalogs that I talked about, the internal catalog as well as the publicly available catalog. Now, in the publicly available catalog, Microsoft has commissioned data sources from a number of sources such as Wikipedia, State.gov, Dun & Bradstreet for business data, and a wide variety of other information that you would find data. So when I look for battery sales, it's trying to find the best match. It found camera batteries. That's not what I'm looking for. The use of AA batteries, also not what I'm looking for. And this is all here on the tab of public data. When I click on organizations, you'll see that it's finding a number of them. And what's really interesting here is it gives me kind of a flyout that I can see how the data looks like. So in this particular case, this is the battery sales. It gives me the retailer, the store, the type, and also the volumes of sales for this year and last year. Now, this looks like the data that I'm interested in. I can directly load it to the spreadsheet, or I can edit it using the Power Query editor, which will allow me to make some modifications. So when I load it, it will load in the format that I want. And again, Microsoft made it really easy for people to interact with the data. So again, I'm looking at the data, and one of the things that you can see very early on is some of the zip codes are only 4 characters, or 4 numbers. This one specifically in Abington is 4 characters, 4 numbers. And for those of you who are from Massachusetts, you would know the zip code starts with either 01 or 02 in that state. So I'm going to assume that this is a 02, and this I'm going to make this change here. So it will go and replace all the values with the new value. Likewise with brand, I want to make a change because later on we're going to do some really cool stuff with other information. You can see that one of the values here is, so I have Duracell, Rayovac, Energizer, and also Panasonic. These are the types of batteries that Contoso distributes. I'm going to change the Panasonic value so it will later fit my needs when we do Q&A. So I'm going to add the intent to it, the word battery, because Panasonic sends a lot, sells a lot of things other than batteries, and so I want to make sure that I'm only filtering on batteries here. So in this case, I've added, I've made some changes. One of the other things that I can do is I can add a column based on data that lives inside of the data source. So I'm going to use, for example, I'm going to make add a field that allows me to check the percentage growth between the year over year, for example. So this would be, I'm using a standard formula, sales from this year minus the sales from last year, and divide by sales by last year. So I'll get kind of a percentage of this. And in fact, when I click on OK, another thing that happens with the, when you look at the data, most of the data appears correctly, but when I look at the types here, this one is the decimal number, this one is the decimal number, this one is not sure what it is. This one, I definitely want to make sure that it represents a decimal number, so then I can show it as a percent. One of the things, again, that's important about this editor is that I've made all these changes, and they are added to the list of steps. This gives me the ability for later on to pull data, a new fresh data, but have the Power Query play back these steps, so I still get the new data, but in the format that I'm interested in. The last thing that I want to do is load this data. I can either load it straight into the table, or I can maintain a connection to the data, which is what I'm going to do here. So it's actually never going to live in your workbook. And I'm going to add this to my data model. This will give me the ability to do all the visualizations. So the data lives in a system that does not reside here. I made a few modifications. The system is now playing back these steps, and it found 2,400 records. There are other things that we can do with Power Query, such as merging and things like that. I'm just showing here really the basic capabilities. So with that, I'm going to switch gears and show a couple of visualizations now that we have the data. We're going to go to the Insert tab, and there are two icons that I'm interested in showing you today. The first one is the Power Map. The second one will be the Power View. So we'll first start with Power Map. And we'll wait a second, and we'll open up the Power Map editor. And we'll open it up on the wrong screen. So when I open it up, you'll see that one of the first things it did is already found out the store locations for me. I didn't have to do anything. I just opened it up. And notice, by the way, that there are a couple of ways to, that Excel figured out that there are different ways to represent the data geographically. So I'm going to select the store name. This is probably good enough for what I need. And I'm going to go to the next tab here. And this time I'm going to bring in some sales data so I can see the accumulation of data. And maybe even add the brand as a category. And now it shows it as a stacked way, but I can actually look at this side by side. And immediately I can see that there's something really interesting in Florida. Everything is more or less okay. I can visualize it using the 3D capabilities. I can actually switch and see it as a heat map, and I can actually see the heat map. These are all the best places to buy battery capacity from Contoso. If I want, I can do two more things at the top. I can add the labels, and we'll see this in use in a minute, and I can also flatten it, so I can see it as a 2D chart rather than a 3D. And when I zoom in, notice what happens. I'm going specifically to this area, and you can see that right outside of Bradenton, Florida, which is south of St. Petersburg, something really interesting that I'd like to investigate more. So just to give you an idea of how this works, another visualization a lot of people like to use is the bubbles. And if I move this to the categories, you can see throughout the United States, a breakdown. And you can imagine how this would work in your organization. So I'm going to leave Power Map here and move on to Power View. Power View enables you to perform visualizations in a number of different ways. One of the things that happens when I click on Power View is that it opens up a blank canvas, basically. And I can start putting little visualizations on the canvas, and you'll see how they all tie in together. I can get a little bit more real estate. I don't need to see my query table here. And I'm going to minimize my filters right now. So you can see a little bit more. And I can look at the list of fields and pick the fields that I'm interested in. So I'm just going to drag the retailer it definitely did work. I performed it a couple of times already. And I will say again, I'm pulling the data in real time, so maybe that's part of it, but it was something. Okay, so we move this here and move the volume of sales here, and I'm just going to move this over here. So now you can see a table with the leading retailers that we work with and the volume of sales. Now I can change the visualization. For example, I can make it a bar chart. And I can organize it so that I can sort it by sales, and so I always see the ones that we do most business with on the left and least business on the right. So another thing that I can do is use my copy-paste function. So I can copy the chart and paste it. So again. Okay, and this time I want to make some changes. So I want to show okay, so let's make a few changes here. The first one is I don't want brand here. I don't retail, I want brand. I'm going to drag instead of that my access to brand. And I also want a different visualization. I want to do it as a pie. So this time I'm looking at the sales of retail and sales of brand. I'm going to do one more and copy and paste here and change this slightly. Again, I want to bring this time the battery type. The battery type, brand, retail, and I even can put in store name. And what this will allow me to do is the drill down. I can see, I can drill down. Maybe I can visualize this a little bit better. I can even do things like, for example, add data labels so they show. I can so here's an example of that I'm now looking at the retail, the brand, and type. The last thing that I want to do is I'm going to take this one and copy this and show you another very cool visualization. And that is I'm going to show it as a map. And okay. Well, it was a little bit slow, but I think it's part of it because I'm the webcast. Now, another key thing that I can do is I can change a few things. I want to say I want to have the legends at the top, and I don't want the title. I can add a title if I want by going to, oops, okay. There we go. I can select to add a text. Okay, I'll do without it. It's supposed to add, oh, there we go, it did add it here. All right, so see? I can move it up here, visualize it this way, and so forth. So with that, oh, one more visualization that I like to do is change the theme. So you can see I have this wide variety of theme. I can say I want to look at this theme or maybe even this. The last thing I want to show in this section is the state, adding a filter. So I'm going to drag this filter, and this is going to become important. So notice right now I'm looking at the U.S. sales. In fact, I would put in the title so you can see it. Okay, so I'm looking at the U.S. sales right now. Where do we sell? What's the leading brand? And the type of batteries. I want to remind everybody this is fictitious data, so don't necessarily take it for granted. When I click on a state, you'll see that everything snaps to that state right now. So hold on a second. Okay. So now you can see that I'm only, in this state, I'm only selling to Target and Walmart. These are all the batteries that we sell. And if we zoom in, Oh. There we go. If I zoom in, I can see, the different capacities, the different sales for each one of the stores. For example, if I click on Bradenton, the one that was highlighted, you can see that everything now I can see the proportion of Bradenton compared to all the other sales in the state. So this kind of gives you an idea. And this was created in, just a few minutes based on some very simple thing. I'll just change also the name later on. We'll need that. So we're going to call it sales. Okay, so with that concludes kind of the first part of the demo. Our ability to interact, create some very basic visualizations, not a lot of sophistication. It was very easy to do. And every web part that I create, every visualization that I created is kind of connected to each other. So I can zoom in on areas, drill down, and see how all the other visualizations, snap to this new filter. So the second part of the demo is we're going to do something a little bit more advanced. We're going to interact with some web data that is relates to batteries. So I'm trying to find out a correlation between our sales and web searches. So the first thing that I want to do is create a table of all the brands. I can copy this, but Energizer, and then Panasonic batteries. This is why we have to change it, because if we would do web searches in Panasonic, a lot of things would show up. Now, I'm going to create a table out of this, and then I'm going to start my search. Later on, we're going to mesh the data with both in the different segments of searches that we're looking for, as well as the sales data. So the first thing I want to do is go to an add-on that I installed called the Bing Ads Intelligence. You can download it for free from Bing. It measures a lot of things such as web traffic on keywords. And there are other things that you can conduct here, but I'm going to click on traffic, and it's going to ask me which keywords you want me to look. It gives me a way to also report based, am I looking at for desktop or anything, smartphones, and so forth. And what's important here is that they only started providing this from 2012, so we can't go a lot back from this. But this is, a good portion. I can show it in monthly or daily. and they're asking me if I want to put it in as a new worksheet or inside of an existing one. So I'm just going to go and click here and add it to the existing table and click on the submit. Sorry. So what this is doing right now is going back to the Bing. Understand this one? Oh. Existing worksheet. And submit. There we go. So what this is doing right now is it's looking for all the searches that were performed around Duracell, around Rayovac, Panasonic, and I guess I misspelled Energizer. I did. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, we'll try again. One more time. Perfect. That one's from 2012. And I want to put it into the new location. Alright. This time I think I did it okay. Here's the Duracell, the Energizer. These are all the number of searches per month for each one of these keywords. Now this is great, but let me add a couple of interesting things to this as well. For example, I can conduct additional research and find out, based on these parameters, what's the breakdown by, let's say, state. So I can search by location and say I want to see it by state. Same thing, I'm going to select existing location and it's going to add it to my existing location. So this time I have the percentage of sales, of searches from each one of the states. Now the format is not exactly how I wanted it. I'm going to show you a small trick in Excel. I'm just going to type the first one, and then the second one is already seems that what it's looking for is a portion of the state from the location, and I'm going to label it as state. This will become important later. The last piece that is really cool is my ability to conduct some more research and get the age and gender breakdown of these searches. So the same thing, I'm going to select my keywords and look at age and gender and put in, select an existing location and go ahead and click on OK. So what I've done here is I've pulled data from from Bing about web searches of my keywords that I'm interested in, and I'm going to now, because this is a Power BI demo, I'm going to add these to my Power Pivot. So each one of them is going to be added to the data model. So I click on the Power Pivot and add it to the data model. I'll add this one. It's coming. I tested this demo many times. Okay. So this is the first table that we added. Let's add this one as well. We're going to add this one. So it will add it here. There's another tab. And then we're going to go here and add this one as well. And then lastly, we're going to add well, so at this point, we've added all these tables to our data model. And now I can actually conduct a couple of changes that I want to make. The first one is I want to represent these data always as percentage. So I'm just going to go and recognize it as a decimal number, and I'm going to say that I want to see it as a percentage. There's another column that I want to represent as a percentage. These are the percentage by state. So that's the first thing, but what's really cool is the ability for us to make data connections. So I'm going to switch to the data, the diagram view, and connect everything to brand. As you know, brand is really important, so I'm going to connect it to the brand here. And so this will give me the ability for conducting searches around brand. Here. And the last one is I'm going to connect the brand to my sales data. And that way, right now, everything is connected through the brand. So in the interest of time, I'm going to show just one or two things and then switch to the web view. But you'll get the idea in a minute. I'm going to exit and go back to my spreadsheet, and this time create another Power View that allows me to another worksheet. So we'll have basically two worksheets. So I'm going to show just one thing here, and then we'll go on. And this is the battery. So just to show another interesting visualization, I'm going to change this to I think part of it has to do with me showing you visualizations in through the webcam. So usually it goes a lot faster. Is the brand. So this will just show you the breakdown by age. Okay, I'm going to reserve to my backup so that we can show you a couple of really cool things before we go. I'm going to switch to the Power BI site and pull the information directly from there. I created a backup earlier. So with your permission, I'm going to switch over. So this is a regular SharePoint site that has files and folders. And one of the things that it also has is the Power BI link. So I can actually access the files directly from here, or the ones that are Power BI enabled, I can access them directly from my Power BI Mac. And one of the things you'll see as we log on to the Power BI site is there are different topics in this Power BI site. And this is done deliberately, so you'll see kind of the list of workbooks that have been enabled. They discuss different things. These are the featured reports that are listed at the top, and then featured questions, and we'll talk about them later. You can see that there are other workbooks here. For example, if you look at the Contoso sales, I want to select this. This is the one that we worked on, and I'm going to connect to it through and bring it up to the top. So I'm going to look at it as a featured report. So now if I click on my Power BI demo, and I click on it, the first report that will show up is the one that I just put in the featured report. I can open it up as an HTML5. Here's my battery sales, same view. And all I have to do is click on it and it will open up. It actually in IE, the default is it opens it up in Silverlight. I can later switch it to HTML5. For all other browsers, the default is HTML5. And so here are the tabs. If you can see this. So 5 more minutes. I do apologize. The response time is slower than I used to. So here, all the visualization that we showed earlier. I can click on an item and it will filter this. I can click on the store and it will show me all the visualization. This is one way to share with others. When I look at the web searches that we talked about, this is what I was trying to build earlier. These are the breakdown of the web searches by brand, by date. I can also get with the date, by map, and by user group. So if I want, I can click on a particular user group, and it will show me the breakdown. You can see that most, web sales, web searches of batteries that are down for Panasonic. And then here is Energizer and so forth. So it's just one way to view the data. Which, again, this is the principle here is this is a new form of data. All I have to do is connect to it, and now I can create some really cool visualization. The last part of the demo that I want to show is the questions and answers. David, I think you're not muted.
I apologize. So are we ready for the Q&A portion?
The Q&A of Power BI. So just one second. Hold on a second. Not the Q&A of the webinar. It's called Power BI Q&A. I just want to show one more thing, and that is the ability to interact with the data through a Power Q&A. The link right now is here at the top, so this will change later on. When I click on this, I can actually interact with the data using natural language questions. And assuming you guys can see this, start typing. You can see I can have some canned questions, but if I want, I can actually say show sales in XL, for example. Wow. David, can you see this okay?
Yes, I'm seeing your screen. It looks like it's slow. Okay, it just popped up for us.
Okay. Store name. And I can choose the different ways to visualize it. So I'm going to look at bar chart and in Excel. Useful content. Bar chart. And then the two more things I want to show is the ability, I can actually look at the highest sales, and I can compare it with the 2015 sales. as well. And this time I want to show it as a cluster chart. And so I can see what stores are doing better. The last thing that I wanted to add is I want to add also web searches. So searches. And this is going to show comparison of the web searches you get the idea. The ability is for me to actually compare sales data that lives on-premise with web data that lives outside of the organization. So with that, I'm going to pause and first of all apologize for the slowness of the demo. It usually goes a lot faster, and then maybe turn it over to David for questions and answers.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Noam. I know it can be a little bit frustrating trying to get these demos to work on these on a large meeting. Before we do start the Q&A section, I would like to give everybody a chance to request a one-on-one from a Catapult consultant. Basically, if you would like a call from an account executive to discuss any Power BI or cloud initiatives you may be planning, to see if a one-on-one would be beneficial, please select the topic of your interest, and we will have someone reach out to you after the webinar. Once again, you'll be getting a call from either New Horizons account executive or Catapult Systems to find a little bit about your needs, and then we'll set up a one-on-one with a conversation with a technical consultant if that seems to be good for everybody. So some of our Power BI questions, one question we had was, how does Power BI differentiate itself from other BI solutions like SAP or MicroStrategy?
That's a very good question. So this is actually very important. One of the big things that Microsoft focuses on is the self-service BI. All of these other solutions, there are two components to it. There's getting the data and organizing it, and then there is the visualization. One of the things that Microsoft has done is they have simplified the way to connect to these data sources and have made it really easy to create these visualizations such as the Q&A that we're looking at here. So the differentiation is they are really good at connecting to the data and really good at enabling self-service BI to the masses, whereas the others have really good data sources and ability to create some really sophisticated, basically data models that Microsoft can interact with them directly.
Another question that we had kind of around the data, speaking of where you can get it from, does Power BI work with Salesforce now? Can you import data from there?
It does. I'm actually going to point you to a video that will show how this is done. And so in the next couple of weeks, you will see how you can connect. There'll be a lot of documentation on how to do this, these visualizations against Salesforce.com. So the answer to the question is yes, it's coming, and there's a video of how this will work on the web, and I'm going to point you to it.
Great. So another question we had is Power BI available with SharePoint 2013 on-premise?
Good question. Right now, the answer is no. The Power BI Sites capability, Microsoft's mantra is cloud first, and so at this point, there is no ability to create Power Q&A and Power Map, and Power BI Mobile using the SharePoint 2013. Everything else is available. In other words, all these visualizations that I showed and the ability to open it in HTML5 is available on premise. What's not available is the ability to interact with it through Power BI environment mobile.
Great. We had some questions about training and basically employee readiness for Power BI, and I think this kind of crosses maybe things that both Catapult and New Horizons does, because I know Catapult has a Power BI Accelerate program, and I know New Horizons does also offer some training options. So, Tiffany, would you like to start by telling a little bit about what you guys can do as far as training for Power BI? Still here? Tiffany? Well, Noam, I'll let you go ahead and talk a little bit about our Jumpstart program then.
Yeah,
Hey,
yes.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I'm sorry, I was muted. I was going to say we actually have a tremendous offering in the SQL BI courses for our end users and for the technical students. And so what we're going to do is a follow-up email with the actually different courses that fall into whether or not a customer is using SQL 2012, SQL 2014, and we still actually have some customers out there on different platforms. So we are going to do a follow-up email with the different courses that are available on our open enrollment and for private events.
Great. And I know Catapult has a little Power BI Jumpstart that can kind of help get your organization going. Would you like to talk a little bit about that, Noam?
Yes. So this is actually one of our exciting offerings around Power BI. It's a way for organizations to really start with familiarizing themselves with the capabilities of Power BI, identifying the low-hanging fruits, the scenarios where Power BI makes most sense, and you can get the quickest return on investment. What Catapult does is we actually plot with you kind of a strategy, a roadmap of how to move to Power BI, and also and leave you with a pilot, workable production environment that you can actually start using in real time. But the program is designed in such a way that organizations can later take on and expand on it, using their own capabilities. We specialize in connecting with the particular data sources, deal with all the security, and also provide them guidance around visualizations, etc. This is one of the things that I'm really excited to share with you guys in this space.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. You can finish that.
I just want to add one more thing, just in the interest of time, is that there's a couple of links that I think are important, and David is going to include those in the link in the email that we're going to send tomorrow. The first one, of course, is the Power BI, and Catapult has also a big discipline around business intelligence. You can find more information about that on our website. But these two are additional links that I think are important. One is the future of Power BI, so this can give you kind of a glimpse around where are we heading with Power BI. In this video, about the 20th minute, you can see the integration with Salesforce.com. So that's really exciting. And then the last thing is, this is something that we finished literally yesterday. Microsoft IT and Catapult has finished a Power BI self-service guide. It's very short, 6, I think, or 8 pages long. Here are the key things. Here's how you start. Where do you go to get more information? A lot of visualization. So I encourage you to also access these links as well. So we have the Jumpstart to help organizations, and to learn more, this is where you would go. David?
Yeah, well, before I let everybody go today, I did want to give you a chance to pre-register for our next webinar. It's going to be DevOps in the Cloud. It's about using, it's DevOps and app dev testing in Azure. So if you're interested in that, you can check Please Register Me, and I'll get you a registration email Monday. So you'll get that Monday. Before we go, I also want to remind everybody that this is being recorded, and we will get the recording to you in an email tomorrow morning. You should see an email from David Moore, and it'll have a link to download the recording as well as those links to the takeaways that Noam just showed on his last slide. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today, and we look forward to having you on future webinars. And thank you, Noam, for a great presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.